Good morning, dear students. So, welcome back to the teaching class day 4. So, in the last session, I have discussed minimum 6 different type of cell organelles. What are its characteristic features and what are its main function. So, usually means before I have explained 4 different cell organelles, but in the last session I have discussed 6. So, totally we have learned 10 different types of cell organelles when we are going to see, means particularly we are going to see in the eukaryotic cell. And one more important cell organelle I have left out in the last class. So in the today's class, in the today's session, I am going to discuss that single cell organelle, and later I am going to tell some of the basic differences between plant cell as well as the animal cell. So see here. So the term plastid. So plastids are they are also kind of cell organelles. They are also a kind of cell organelles. I have already told that. So usually a cell consisting of different types of cell organelles like plasma membrane, nucleus, cytoplasm, Golgi bodies, ribosomes, endoplasmic reticulum. There are many types of cell organelles will be found inside the cell. So particularly those tiny structures we call them as the cell organelle. Like that, one such important cell organelle, what we call it as a plastids. So these are the cell organelles. They particularly seen only in they found only in the plant cells. They found only in the plant cells. So usually plastids can be categorized into 2 different types. So based on the color. So plastids can be categorized into 2 different types. So one will be the chromoplast. And the second will be the leucoplast. The first will be the chromoplast, the second will be the leucoplast. So before telling its types, so usually plastids they are of having 2 layers, means double layered structure. So inside the plastids we are going to see a minute structures, what we call somewhat like matrix, what we call them as a stroma. Minute structures will be seen inside the plastids. As if like a mitochondria, even these plastids they are having DNA, having their own DNA. So with the help of DNA, so multiplication, replication, all these processes will be taking place. Like mitochondria, these will be having their own DNA. So there are some interesting characteristic features. Means plastids are the cell organelles. They will be found only in the plant cell. So they will be having a double layered, double membranous structure. So inside fluid, what we call it as a stroma, and particularly this cell organelle like mitochondria, they will be having their own DNA, so particularly meant for a replication process and all. So next, so based on the color pigment, plastids can be categorized into 2 different types. So the first will be the chromoplast and second will be the leucoplast. So the term chromoplast, it represents colored one, means colored plastids are nothing but chromoplast. Whereas colorless plastids, they are nothing but the leucoplast. So based on the color itself, we have been categorized plastids into 2 different types. Again in the chromoplast, we are going to see one such example, what is called as chloroplast. I think you have heard the term chloroplast. So chloroplast is a that is a type of chromoplast in which so these chloroplasts will be having a green color pigment, not only green but also it will be having orange, yellow, somewhat a reddish blue pigment all. So usually particularly most of the percent means more than 90%, so these chloroplasts will be having a green color pigment, what we call it as a chlorophyll. So this chloroplast will be having a green color pigment. With the help of that pigment, so they can usually prepare their own food, means particularly it helps during at the time of photosynthesis process. So see here, so chloroplast it is of having green color pigment, green color pigment called as chlorophyll, so which helps to occur photosynthesis. So photosynthesis means that is an important physiological process which will be taking place in the green plants, means autotrophs. So in those with the help of sunlight, so with the help of chlorophyll pigment, with the help of carbon dioxide, the green plants they are going to prepare their own food. So at that time chlorophyll is a pigment which will be found inside the chloroplast. So chloroplasts are a type of chromoplast. So chromoplast is a type of plastids. So guys, apart from those 10 cell organelles, you should also remember one such important cell organelle regarding plastids. So I think you have understood that. So plastids are a cell organelle found only in the plant cells. So based on their color, we can easily categorize into chromo as well as leuco. Chromo means colored one, leuco means colorless. So leucoplast, they are also kind of a plastids. They doesn't have a color, somewhat white, means whitish colors or so colorless one. So particularly in these what we call proteins, oils, gums, starch, all the components will be stored particularly in those type of plastids. So we are at the last concept. Particularly in this chapter we are at the last concept, that is nothing but structure of plant as well as the animal cell, but I have not drawn the structure of plant and animal cell, so that will be a assignment, that will be a homework for you guys. Means with the help of textbook, so you should practice, must and should you need to practice the structure of plant cell as well as the structure of animal cell. So just I am going to discuss some characteristic features side by side. I am going to tell some of the dissimilarities, means some of the differences between plant cell as well as the animal cell. So only I am going to discuss regarding the differences as well as the character, but the structure you must practice in your home. So see, when we take plant cell, so usually there are quite similarities as well as dissimilarities. So when we take plant cell, so usually plant cells they are having a larger size as compared to the animal cell. So plant cells size will be having a large one. So see here, the first difference is these cells are larger in size or else bigger in size. So here in the animal cell, these cells are smaller in size. This is a first basic difference. These cells are smaller in size as compared to the plant cell. So animal cells are having a small size. Next one, see here. So usually, so you see the structure particularly in the textbook. So usually most of the plant cells they will be having a rectangular shape, means they will be having a definite shape, means plant cells they usually have a definite shape, so that is rectangular. So when we, means coming coming to the animal cells, in most of the cases their cell will be of having a what we call see here. So usually they don't have a definite shape like plant cell. They doesn't have a definite shape. In particularly some it will be having a circular shape. Usually these cells doesn't have a definite shape. These cells does not have a definite shape. But usually in some we are going to draw it in a what we call a circular manner, circular shape. Next one, the third major difference between plant and animal cell, as if I have already told that. So one important cell organelle, what we call cell wall. So cell wall is an organelle which will be seen or which will be found only in the plant cell, whereas in the animal cell there won't be a cell wall. So third difference, cell wall is present. Cell wall is present in the plant cell, whereas cell wall is absent in the animal cell. Cell wall is absent. So what is the main function of cell wall? Can anyone? Yes. So cell wall particularly it gives a protection to the inner cell organelles. Means it is of having a rigidity. It maintains rigidity and it helps to protection. So cell wall is present in the plant cell, whereas cell wall is absent in the animal cell. The next difference, that is fourth one. So see here. So the food, whatever form and that can be stored in the form of starch. Food is stored in the form of starch, particularly in the plant cell. But coming to the animal cell, so here whatever the food is formed and that food is going to be stored in the form of glycogen. Food is stored in the form of glycogen. This is a difference. The next difference will be, so usually cell wall is present here. So again that cell wall is made up of some important components like cellulose, whereas majorly cell wall is absent, so that they doesn't have any such cellulose as well. So next, so important cell organelle, what we call suicide bags of the cells, means lysosomes. So lysosomes are completely absent in the plant cell, whereas lysosomes are present in the, means they are found in the animal cells. Lysosomes are absent in the, they are absent in the plant cell, whereas lysosomes are present in the animal cell. So this is also a difference. Next, as if I have told that plastid is a important cell organelle which will be found only in the green, means particularly plant cell. So even though plastids they may consisting in the animal cell, but particularly when we take chloroplast, so chloroplast is such a part type of organelle which will be having a green color pigment meant for a photosynthesis, means to prepare their own food. So chloroplast will be found only in the plant cell, whereas chloroplast will be absent in the animal cell. That is also a difference.